And Gala has a very strong case, like all of us have and have been talking about, to insist that there is a stop to corruption. I want to highlight a few corrupt issues, which is in the public domain, and most of it I got in the last 3 or 4 years from audit reports, so that Gambians can have a good context to what Gala was trying to do yesterday. And let's start with the First Ladies Foundation, where $35 million or dollars is, because
yeah.
I don't know whether
$35 million is.
that $35 million were deposited in her account, and according to the president himself, they don't know where to put it, and then deposited it into her account. For me, that's what opened the floodgates of corruption in this country, because I think it was in 2018 when that happened. The Fatma Foundation, $35 million Gambian dollars. Secure Report. You remember Secure Report?
I do.
When you go to the airport, in and out, you pay. The contract is $160 million. Banjul Roads, that one, $2.4 billion, equivalent to, at the time, $41 million to pave the Banjul roads. And we all know what that led to. It led to massive flooding on the streets of Banjul. This year I haven't had any flooding yet. Last year also, so maybe they fixed some of the areas that were flooding. But the Banjul roads is a horrendous project that cost the economy $2.4 billion or 41 million equivalent at the time. Then you remember the COVID-19 funding at the Ministry of Health.
Yep.
600 million Gambian dollars is what we are talking about. And everybody is quiet about these issues now. The GPA, Port Authority, just one unit, that ticketing unit, that had an issue of 300 million Gambian dollars. It was investigated by the police. They tried to minimize it between the police and the Justice Ministry. Nothing has been done about that one also. The NDMA, National Disaster Management Agency, also cannot account for 100 million Gambian dollars. The National Assembly had intervened. Nothing is happening. The media contract, the 40 million that was dished out to the various media houses, that too is just public money given to people to propaganda for the government. The $41 million renovation of the airport. You remember the airport was renovated.
Exactly.
And it was renovated, according to them, for 41 million Gambian dollars. Certain parts of the airport were flooding. I think it has been fixed now. And certain parts of the airport do not even have adequate air conditioning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The OIC roads, oh dear. These roads, I think everybody knows about that. Lamin has done a fantastic job dealing with the Ministry of Infrastructure to flesh out this thing. I don't need to go into the details anymore, only to say that under normal circumstances, a road like that would have cost around 1 million per kilometer.
Exactly.
But according to them, it costs $6 million per kilometer. Not 1 million, 6 million.
6.8 million.
6.8 million, almost $7 million per kilometer.
And after that, there was an additional 45 million, which took it to 9.8 million per kilometer.
Per kilometer.
Yeah.
So then the $100 million loan for the OIC cars. I think that one also, we talked about it. But Gambia is like that. All these big things are happening. When they happen, we talk about it, and then people relax, and then life continues. I think people should recall these 100 million OIC cars and how those cars were bought. We see them being driven around town. These are very expensive cars. Most likely, the prices have been inflated. Most likely, they didn't cost what was reported for them to have been bought for. Remember the Social Security Housing Finance Corporation's 9.8 million euro money that they gave to one car dealership to import buses. 9.8 million euros. That, at the time, that was around 715 million Gambian dollars to one individual company to source cars, buses for...
Without proper bidding.
Yeah, without proper bidding, the kind of transparency that is required. And then the $63 million renovation of the Vice President's residence. Remember, the Vice President's residence since 2017 has been renovated twice. This is the third renovation, and they said it cost 63 million. Now, the national debt, 119 billion, which is about 85% of GDP. And this 85%, I still think it's on the low side. It's much more than that. And then the allocation of the Chief Justice residence to the President. For me, that caps the corruption that Gala was all about yesterday. And for those of you who are saying, this corruption is this and that, let's put these things into context. And I haven't even spoken about the $100 million that the central bank gave to 10 companies to source different food items and petroleum products for the country. 100 million US from the central bank's reserves. The government gave Jar Oil, I think it was 50 million.
50 million US dollars.
50 million US dollars, which the government underwrote. Although now, some time ago, the reporting on social media was that part of that was returned, but we don't know which part was returned, how much was returned, when it was returned. So these are all issues, and then the 75 million currency swap that was signed by the governor of the central bank on the 27th of June, 2025. We talked about
75 million is dollars.
Yes, it's US dollars. We talked about that several times. We thought it was dead, but then it was signed on June 27, 2025. Then there is the sale of Megabank. Mm-hmm. You can go on and on and on and on. You will, the list is not going to be exhaustive. Yeah. So that is the context in which Gala made the protest. This is a situation where the country's national wealth is being squandered by a handful of people with a whole lot of impunity of action, and there are no consequences for it. Yeah. And Gala is saying the corruption has to stop. We've been talking about these things for 5 years now. Yeah. And people will listen, it dies down, and then they go and do another thing, sort of thing. So Gala is following our footsteps in saying this corruption must stop because the national wealth is being squandered by a handful at the expense of the rest of us. That is the context in which the Gala protest yesterday was all about. Mm-hmm. I wish the police would have given them a bit of time for them to go into these issues item by item to say to people, this is what is happening. Now, finally, I will end this thing with saying, the squandering of our national wealth is one thing. That's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is this oil and gas issue that we talked about last week. The more you do research on it, the more you realize that we are sitting on a gold mine of oil and gas. and the government is not transparent enough to come and tell us what is going down. And then you juxtapose that to the issue of these rare earth minerals in our continental shelf. We have talked about that also in various platforms. To say there are rare earth minerals in our exclusive economic zone in the sea. They have, there are indications that, allegations that they have actually signed a contract with a Norwegian company to explore these rare earth minerals, and we are not aware of it. Now, that should raise our antennas on two fronts. Front one is that these are our sovereign national wealth items that are being contracted
targeted for exploitation.
For exploitation, without citizens knowing about it. The second side of it is when you look at sand mining and this black sand mining that is going on the Combo coastal areas, you realize that these guys don't give any attention to the environmental damage that these mining enterprises are causing the country. So we should be very concerned about our oil not being transparent and rare earth minerals not being transparently discussed among us. I will stop there.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. And that was a pretty comprehensive list of things that happened. Even though with this government we cannot be comprehensive because it's happening all the time. Because we could add to that list the $447 million which were given to NAWEC over a period of 8 years to improve its operation. And $447 million to NAWEC should have meant we could have produced at least 400 megawatts of power. And that would have given us all the power we need and even allow us to export over 250 megawatts of power. Sell it to the West Africa Power Pool or to other countries directly. We could have done that. You know, it reminds us also of all the money they said they sunk into agriculture, you know, from the different loans, from IFAD, from the African Development Bank, etc., World Bank, which have produced absolutely no result for this country. And all of these are loans we're going to pay back. You put us in a situation of debt distress by contracting all these loans, and we do not see anything that you have developed from that that is tangible, that we can say, at least we've got this. Or the few cases where we got something, they were hugely overpriced, like the OIC roads, where they spent almost $10 million per kilometer of highway. It's a world record. And they tell us they spent $50 million to do 50 kilometers of substandard secondary roads, none of which cost even $200,000 per kilometer. But they told us they spent $1 million per kilometer, which is what you do for a highway. They spend it on substandard secondary roads. And none of these things are grants. They are loans we're going to have to pay back. And those roads are deteriorating already. The secondary roads, most of them have already deteriorated, and they are going to continue deteriorating over the next year or two, and we'll have to redo those things all over again. So the money has gone into sunk cost. I keep saying, even for Battle Harding, today it looks beautiful, but when the problems start coming in, we will realize the mistake we have made by allowing these people to continue squandering money. But it will come to pass.
And it won't be too long.
Yeah, and hopefully they won't be here to try to mask those problems. You've got all of those things. But in addition, on top of all of that, there are many more we can come to, but we don't have the material time to do it. But we need to flag also, alongside those cases of blatant corruption, where the resources have been diverted or where have been overbilling, etc. In addition to all of those, we have the one-time sale of our state strategic assets. This is the government that mortgaged our bridge, the Senegambia Bridge, for 25 years for $100 million when we could have received minimum $300 million. But they mortgaged it for $100 million. In addition to that, we are told we cannot develop infrastructure that will compete that bridge. So not only you've mortgaged our bridge at a very, very low, unacceptable price, but you have even mortgaged our sovereignty to do what we need to do in this country. We cannot do it. You've even mortgaged that, right? You've mortgaged our bridge. You went out, you concessioned our airport. Well, you're concessioning it now, you're walking towards that. But you've concessioned our port for 30 years. For 30 years, where we'll be getting 20% of the proceeds. And the co-contracting party will get 80%. Particularly scandalous for the case of the Banjul port, which we have already developed. So Alberta is bringing nothing, absolutely nothing in terms of funding to that bridge, to that port. All that they bring is a new management. Yeah. But you still give them 80% and we take 20%.
And Alberic doesn't have a good track record in Guinea, at least.
Yeah, but even if they did, why would you give them 80% of something that we already built? Yeah. It's like you're building your house and you give it to a real estate agent, say, I want you to let this for me. So when you let it, you take 80% of the rent and you give me only 20%. Which landlord would do that? Yeah. Nobody. You pay them a commission on what they do. But you don't even need to do that. There are competent Gambians who could have run this port and run it very profitably.
And they have done it before.
They've done it before. You know, Captain Salah and co.
Captain Salah, Jagana.
Yeah. So you let
them, and all of those guys.
Them, exactly. So there are other Gambians who could have done this. But no. You let them go, you bring in people to do it at our expense. In addition to that, you concession out the building of a new port to them. Again, for the same 80-20%. But there is more to it, which we will find out and come to you with about. You've done all of that in the name of the Gambia, without even informing us properly, without proper it's so scandalous. And it's not just that. Now you're preparing to sell off Gamtel. Gamtel is going to go. The airport is going to go. Okay. These are structures which were built by preceding governments to allow us to get revenue and dividends from those companies and invest in the country's development. As I keep saying, Gamtel used to pay the civil service salaries for the whole country. But we've lost all of that. It's gone from being a hyper-profitable company to a serious deficit-carrying company.
It's a liability company now.
Yes. Yeah.
But guess what, Lamin? Somebody was telling me the amount of money they are planning to pay the staff to retrench them in preparation of this could have been invested to make the Gamtel a bit more profitable. Sorry.
Yeah, in fact, Gamtel should never have been privatized. Yeah. These are strategic companies that we own, which we can run and make them profitable. They keep telling, oh, no, the government is not known for running things properly. Good. Government doesn't run them properly if you appoint incompetent and corrupt people to run them. If you appoint the proper people, and you especially give them a free hand to work and to do what they need to do, there are so many governments who could have turned any of these companies around. But you don't do that. You just let them, you run them into the ground and then have an excuse to sell them. Yeah. No, they make too much losses, you have to sell them off. You cannot do that. Now, on top of all of that, to conclude on that, because for these people there's so much we could to say, we don't have time to say it. On top of all of that, when you create all that mess, you go create commissions.
Yeah,
and you entrust them with the running of those institutions or whatever, and then you pay even more money to them. The State-Owned Enterprises Commission you create. When you have the Ministries of Finance, you have the you have the Central Bank, you have all of those institutions, and the boards which are running those institutions, which are looking at them. Why do you need to go create another institution to oversee them? There are only so many government institutions which are overseeing those parastatals. Why do you need to go and create another institution where you pay each commissioner minimum $120,000 per month?
A month, yeah.
And the chairs are in the region of $140-something thousand per month. For each of those commissioners, their salaries can pay at least 10 to 12 nurses every month.
Yeah, in the hospitals.
They can pay at least 10 to 15 police officers extra. They can pay at least 10 to 15 teachers extra for each of those commissioners, their salaries alone. Now, on top of that, you have the vehicles you give them,
The fuel.
the fuel you give them, the household stuff you give them, and all other perks on top of that. And, you know, recently GRA has been saying that anybody who has fringe benefits will pay for the fringe benefits except the government employees.
Yeah.
So you give them all those fringe benefits. So you give them a relatively small salary and huge
Fringe
allowances
benefits.
and fringe benefits, which they don't pay any tax on. So that is adding insult to injury. That was the case of State Enterprises Commission. That was the state of the ATI, you know, Access to Information Commission. You know, they're just creating commissions just around the clock, just to give money to their friends and cronies. Why can't you plow that money into those institutions and make them work? All the money that's being paid to those commissioners, if you put it in those companies to make them run properly and give it a proper management, you don't need to create those commissions. Yeah. So this is what we face in this country. So the corruption is endemic in this Barrow government. And that is why we got to the situation of Gala going out to demonstrate. But Gala should not limit their demonstration to the stolen Gambia assets. There is much more to it than that.
Yeah, this list.
So, and I understand that they are going to go. You know, so we went out, as you said yesterday, to support these youth because we thought that they are fighting a very noble cause. What they are doing is important for the country, and it's their future that is being mortgaged.
Yeah.
We are here to help them set the ground for them to move forward. But it's their future that's on the ground, that's on the line. So, alhamdulillah, they went out and they protested, and they're going to keep protesting, they said. So we went out to give them moral support. We stayed in the background so as not to look like we're hijacking their demonstrations. It is their demonstration. They decided this, and we just said to them, bravo, continue, that's the way to go.